Indie Beacon Radio with host B Alan Bourgeois. Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
Fire when you see the whites of their eyes.
Okay. All right, here we go. Howdy, and welcome to another edition of the Indie Beacon Show. This is your host, B Alan Bourgeois, and I have with me an author who has a very personal tale to tell about the shooter from the 1966 UT Tower shooting. So, do you prefer Frances or Joseph?
I just prefer Joe.
Just Joe? All right, we'll keep it simple. Welcome, Joe. We're glad you're here. So let's start with, how did you end up meeting this gentleman? CJW is his initials. How did you end up meeting him?
Charlie and I had both applied for a officer candidate program while we were in the military. He was in the Marine Corps and I was in the Navy. And we were both selected and were subsequently ordered to Naval Prep School up in Bainbridge, Maryland. It's no longer there. At the time, it was an active training facility for the Navy. It is where the academy midshipmen used to go for their first summer training prior to entry into the academy. It sort of prepared them for the college life that they were getting ready to be introduced to Annapolis. And the St. Holmes Old Home School that was on the grounds there was the scene of the prep school that we attended also. This was to prepare us, who were enlisted men in the Marine Corps and Navy, for going back to college and getting a technical or engineering type degree for the Navy and the Marine Corps, which were both becoming more and more technically oriented.
Sir, I need to stop you. The sound quality is just not really good, and half of what you're saying is being missed. Is there any way to hold your earpiece up closer so that your microphone is closer to your mouth?
I don't have. Let me plug in a microphone. Let me try that.
All right.
Can you hear that?
No. All right, so let's go ahead and restart. Are you ready?
Go.
Hi, and welcome back to another edition of the Indie Beacon Show. This is your host, B Alan Bourgeois, and I have Joe with me, who has a very personal story to tell about the sniper at the UT Towers shooting. Welcome, Joe. We appreciate you being here.
Glad to be here, Alan.
Okay, so let's start off with the shooter. You guys met way before UT, so how did you meet?
We were in a Navy program designed to provide the Navy and the Marine Corps with technically trained officers. Back in the 60s, they were in high demand in the Marine Corps and in the Navy. And we were attending the Navy Prep School up in Bainbridge, Maryland. And we lived in the same dormitory or barracks together. Charlie right down the hall from where I bunked. And we just became friends. We got there the weekend before the classes were to start, and in the process of unpacking all of our gear and getting situated in our particular rooms. We went to lunch and breakfast and dinner with one another and just visited. Charlie was a very friendly and outgoing young man, and I guess I'm somewhat the same, and we were attracted to one another right away and struck up a friendship, and both being knew what we were doing. Misery loves company, as the old saying goes. So we joined forces, and it was hopefully the other one had answers when you didn't. So we sailed along. He eventually, once we got started, he eventually was introduced to other Marines that were there undergoing the same training, and so he tended to pal around with them. But we still had some bond that had developed in that weekend, and we continued to see one another. He was from Florida, and I, being from Texas, we're Southerners by heart. We're raised doing much the same thing as we were growing up. We enjoyed hunting and fishing as I.
So your friendship lasted for quite some time. And through this, being both, flunkies, as you may say, you obviously had met some of the people that he interacted with, which were some of the same people that you interacted with. Is that right?
Oh, that's definitely true. As a matter of fact, he hung around on my shirt tail, so to speak, once we got to Austin and the university, because of the fact that I was from there. I knew a lot about the city and the school, and which he didn't, so I provided him with information. I was fortunate and got us positions as counselors in a private dormitory there, men's dormitory at the time, and that gave us our rooms free each month. All we had to do was stand hall duty a couple of times a month and attend the rest of the residents that were on our floors. As we were a little bit older and more experienced, as well as military discipline, we fit into the counselor role very, very readily. We're hired, and it's the Navy, of course, and the Marine Corps. Charlie was in the Marines. Was paying us a basic allowance for quarters, which went right straight into our pocket. We didn't have to pay that for rent because we had been counselors. And I got us a job at the local sorority house, the Kappa Kappa Gamma house, waiting tables, and that provided us with 11 free meals a week, which was another addition to our bankrolls, because we didn't have to purchase the boarding houses and restaurants and cafeterias around the campus area. We didn't have to purchase lunch and dinner for Monday through Friday and Saturday afternoon. And then we got extra change in our pocket for tending bar at some of their functions, and that was nice too.
So, out of curiosity, was the sorority where Kathleen Frances was, or did she come into play later down the road?
She came into play later. She wasn't a sorority sister ever.
How did those two meet?
I was dating her roommate at the time, as it turned out, Murray Aguilar. And Murray and I, bless her heart, and have a moment of silence here. Murray just passed away last September. But Murray was her roommate, and she and I enjoyed hanging out together, going around to different pool halls and what, hustling pool games. We were both good at playing pool and also good at drinking beer, and we made we made sort of a pleasant pastime of we didn't have studying to do or getting together and going to a local pub and taking over the pool table and drinking off of some of the other less capable pool players that happened to be in the bar at the time. And Murray was interested in improving the social life of her roommate, who was Katherine at the time, and so she suggested that I introduce her to some of the guys that I knew, because here I was a counselor in a dormitory, an 8-floor dormitory full of men, and surely I knew somebody that might be a suitable match for Kathy. And so she introduced me to Kathy, and the minute I saw her, I said, "Boy, that's a perfect match for Charlie." And so I arranged a meeting for her to see Charlie, not just for dating, but to see him and observe him from afar before she committed to any kind of a date. And she was pleased with what she saw, and the story went on from there. 9 months later, they were married, and we're hopefully going to live happily ever after.
Hopefully, yeah, it's always a nice dream. We're just about a minute left of this segment. Is there anything specific you'd like to share at the moment before we go on with the show?
Not that I can think of. Charlie and Kathy, like I said, hit it off right away. She was a little country girl from Meadville, Texas. Her father was a rice farmer there. And Charlie was from the son of a plumber and plumbing contractor, pretty well off, I would say, comfortable. In Lake Worth, Florida, and they just had similar backgrounds. So Charlie, though, was Catholic and Kathy was a Methodist, but that didn't seem to hold any problems for them. They were very much in love with one another and committed to making marriage between the two of them work.
Well, this is a perfect spot for us to stop and let our sponsors do their thing, and we'll be right back. Do you send book sales to a company that takes most of your money? Want to earn more money from your book sales? Do you want a bookstore that supports you? Introducing a new bookstore for indie authors and small press, B4R.store. Earn up to 80% of your book sales and learn how to market yourself. B4R.store. Join us for the 6th Annual Authors Marketing Event in Granbury, Texas on July 23rd to the 25th, 2021, where authors share ideas and learn from the professionals over a 2-day weekend. Receive your book marketing certification from the only organization in the world that has been doing it for 5 years, Authors Marketing Guild, a membership-based organization that supports authors from around the world. Learn more at ame.authorsmarketingguild.com. Sponsored by IndieLector.store, a bookstore that pays authors their fair share.
Hello, I am the author and poet Denise Bryson. I am the author of The Things That Cross My Mind, Love's Reality, both in book and audio form. I am also noted as one of the best poets of 2011. I have 2 new projects coming up. One is the Blinky series, where Blinky tells us all about our coins and our bills for our children. I also have a book coming out called Say Ye. It's quotes from Denise Bryson, just inspirational and that will help you along the way.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
And welcome back. This is your host, B Alan Bourgeois, for the Indie Beacon Show. And we have Joseph with us, and we're talking about his book, the 1966 Tower shooting. And he personally knew the shooter. So we were talking a little bit about the background of that. So help me understand, Joe, what was that point that you saw that caused him to do what he did?
Well, First of all, Alan, let me correct you. The title of the book, it's very simple. It's The Charlie I Knew. There's some other books out there, The Summer of '66, and but to put '66 in there is just the year it occurred. The distinct title is The Charlie I Knew. And I never saw, I saw occasional fits of rage from Charlie expressed in different ways when we were together. Now, mind you, we spent 3 semesters together at the University of Texas, so that was a full year. The fall semester, the spring semester, and then the summer semester. And then I was off to submarine school and duty aboard a submarine up with John C. Calhoun in commission in 1964. Pardon. While we were on patrol in 1966, we were on our 3rd patrol, Poseidon Deterrent Patrol, Polaris. At that time, it was called Polaris Deterrent Patrol, up in the Arctic Ocean, north of Scandinavia, of the Arctic Circle, submerged, and we'd been on patrol about, I think about 5 weeks. And we got a radio message. We got constant radio messages, but as it happened, and, people buy the book, they can read the whole story about how it came about. It was my birthday, the day that he did this, August the 1st, 1966. It was my 25th birthday. And on the submarines, the cooks honored everybody who had a birthday with all-they-could-eat steak dinner. So I had got my steak dinner, and I think I ate 3 steaks or whatever. Just enjoyed it, and then I cut the cake, or fixed a big cake big enough to share with all the crew. And I was the only one that had my birthday that particular day. After finishing dinner, it was my habit to go up to the sonar shack and read the news. The news was posted on the clipboard outside the radio room, between the radio room and the sonar shack. And I grabbed these were clippings that the radio man had clipped out of the schedules that they decoded that were constantly being transmitted to us while we were at sea. You got to understand that being submerged, we have a difficulty getting radio transmission. The trail of floating wire behind us, and this constant radio transmission was coming through. And of course, it's all in code. And the radio man had to break it down as to what messages were actual tactical operational messages for the captain, what were family grams, which were little letters, 15 words of your wife or your girlfriend or your mother or what have you, your brother-in-law, your uncle could send you whatever. And you allowed 2 of those at patrol, and the news. And this was all mingled in together in this radio traffic that was constantly coming into the radio room. Radio were constantly decoding, separating out. But then they cut the little strips that were actual news out, paste them on legal size paper and stick it on the clipboard, hung it outside the radio shack, and that was our newspaper. Well, I grabbed the clipboard and was going into the sonar shack to sit down and read it before going on watch. I was volunteering to stick with the sonar because we were short in sonar. And the first thing I saw was the architectural engineering student at the University of Texas was on the tower shooting people. Well, it didn't give any name, but right then and there, I said Charlie. But then after I read it again, it said architectural. I sort of breathed a sigh of relief because Charlie, the last I had known, the last time I had talked to him, and we shared phone calls off and on when I was ashore, because I would come back to Houston occasionally and visit on leave from the submarine. Once we got back from the patrol, the captain would give us 30 days leave and we could do whatever we wanted. I'd generally come back down to Houston and visit with friends here. And I
We
saw
only
that
have just a couple minutes left of this segment. I want to make sure we get this in there and stuff. What was your gut feeling as to why he did this?
Was because he wanted to.
I'm sorry, because
it was because he wanted to. That was life held nothing more for him. He considered himself pretty much a failure as a person. His mother had come to live in Austin, finally left his father after years of horrible physical abuse at his hands. That he, not only Charlie and his mother suffered, but his two younger brothers. And she had finally called quits to it, applied for a divorce and moved to Austin. And they had set her up in Austin. She was very comfortable there with a job at the Wise Cafeteria. And was happy to have her freedom. We had raised three young sons. And I might add that Charlie's two brothers tragically came to rather tragic ends as well. The John boy became a homosexual, and eventually, although he was married at first, and he died of AIDS. And Mikey, the youngest one, was killed in a shot at a local bar there in Lake Worth, Florida, in an argument with some other bar patron who apparently didn't like what the kid said at him or did to him or anything. And he was killed. Charlie's father, who was a jackass number one, I met the man on several occasions, and right away I didn't like him. He was just a horrible individual. He died of with Alzheimer's dementia in a nursing home eventually.
what is it you're hoping people will get from reading your book?
I hope they'll learn that mental illness is an all-encompassing problem in our world today. Charlie definitely had a mental problem. When you get to the end of your own life, he had, you stop being able to, your mind stops being able to function the way it's supposed to, and you lose context of what is right and what is wrong. Although he was raised knowing right and wrong because his father beat it into him. Charlie became an accomplished pianist at the age of 12. But he had a full whip sitting on the piano that he practiced 3 and 4 hours a night because his father told him to get whipped with that whip if he didn't practice and learn. So there's documented evidence that CA, which was Charlie's father's initial, Charles, maybe Adolphus was his middle name. But CA is what he liked to be called, had been abusive to Charlie's mother when she was pregnant with him. A neighbor or several neighbors would swear in court that they saw him hit her in the stomach with a bullet while she was pregnant with Charlie. So, what injury did that cause in his brain? There's a young lady in Bay City, Michigan right now who's doing some research, and she contacted me about 6 months ago after reading the book and thanked me for putting it out. And, I've since helped her with questions that she's had, although she's done some marvelous research. But she's looking into the what's called TBI, or traumatic brain injury syndrome, that is prominent problem today with people who suffer injuries to the head. Your professional football players with their helmets get bashed in the head all the time. College, but high school ball players. It is a serious issue. Charlie, in Marine Corps training, pugilistic fighting, you get butted in the head with a guy wearing a football helmet. You get hit in the head with this pugil stick. You have that happen a number of times, and our brain is not designed to suffer all of that kind of abuse. And Charlie's, on autopsy, it was discovered that Charlie's skull, the thickness of the bone in his skull, was 1/2 of what the normal person is. Generally, the thickness of your skull, the bone structure here contains your brain and protects it, is anywhere from 5.5 to 6 millimeters thick. Charlie's was between 2 and 3 millimeters. So he was, effectively wearing a cloth bag around his brain because it's contained. And any of the injuries that he had, he overturned a chief while in the incident in Florida. While he was stationed down in Guantanamo Bay, he was in a telephone booth that got struck by lightning. Countless situations. And this young lady's putting together I guess what she's decided now is to do a Facebook or YouTube series on the traumatic brain injury, and try to show, and she, bless her heart, she's not professionally educated in neurosurgery or what have you, but she has done her due research and she knows what she's talking about. So I'm anxious to see if she's going to let me preview this session.
We are a bit over on the show, and I need to go ahead and stop here and let our sponsors do their thing. We'll be right back and talk where people can find your book and your website and stuff like that. All right, we'll be right back. World War II, the Holocaust and a mysterious package arrives in New York from Germany 40 years after the war, involving 3 families across the oceans. Mystery, intrigue, and correcting the most heinous of wrongs. This is just part of the story Michael Newman tells in his book, Between These Walls. Available in Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or at indielector.store. Buy it today and enjoy this thriller of a novel. Authors Marketing Guild is a membership-owned organization designed to help authors succeed and learn how to better market and sell themselves and their books. Join us at authorsmarketingguild.com and receive so many benefits you'll wonder why you didn't join sooner. That's authorsmarketingguild.com.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
And welcome back to the Indie Beacon Show. This is your host, B Alan Bourgeois. I've been talking with Joe about his book. The Charlie I Knew is the title, of reference to the 1966 UT Tower shooting. So let's start off with, in this closing segment, how can people find the book?
Any normal bookstore will be able to order it, and if they don't already have it on hand, purchase it through Amazon. It's an ebook form. If you prefer to read a book on Kindle, you can get it that way. Barnes and Noble, all of the popular book outlets have it available. It's now, the revised edition of it is now published by England Spark, and I'm the publisher and the author, Frances J Schuck, S-C-H-U-C-K Jr. And I have a website, which is the title of the book in small letters, all concatenated together. TheCharlieAndrew.com. TheCharlieAndrew.com. And go to that website and click on the book. Down in the lower status bar at the bottom, there are several options that you can click on. If you click on book, it'll take you to the page that will tell you more about the book and tell you where you can buy it. The first page also, the home page of the website also maps out Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Yahoo.
Out of curiosity, I'm sure you have a lot to say about Charlie and that you knew and stuff, and the book can only put so much in there. So on the website, do you have additional information or things that you might learn about or think about after the book was written?
No, I don't think there's anything extraordinary. I think that the facts are all there in the book itself, and there's a lot of corrective narrative to things that the media and other organizations that people said during the heat of the moment when sensationalism and selling the next edition of a local newspaper or getting you to watch their TV newscast was prime importance. A lot of things were said that were incorrect, and I've tried to correct those. I think it's important that the public be allowed to decide for themselves. They think it's the reason that Charlie did this horrendous deed. He was measured in what he did. He went and killed his mother first that evening. Well, it was actually early in the morning. It was after midnight, August 1st. And he came back home and killed his wife, Katherine. And then he went to the store, bought a shotgun and carbine and some other things to go with the other weapons and ammunition that he had, and loaded them all up and went to the UT Tower. And it was pretty well planned out. He had a pass to get into the restricted parking there at the base of the tower. And he went up there and he started selectively shooting people where he wanted to and the people that he wanted to shoot. There were some people he just wounded, and it's my firm conviction that he just wounded them because that's all he wanted to do. If he wanted to kill them, they've been dead. I guarantee you. I know. Charlie and I went hunting quite a bit. We target practice, target shooting, and sighting in our guns on numerous occasions to make sure that they were accurate before we went on deer hunts. I don't mean to brag, but I was a better shot than Charlie, and he was trained in the Marine Corps. He knew what he wanted to hit and where he wanted to hit it. He shot somebody, he hit him where he wanted to hit him.
All righty. Well, we are at the end of the show. I want to thank you very much for being with us, and we wish you the best of luck with this, and hopefully people will get to read it and get a better sense of what he was, who he was, what he was going through, and the situation at hand. So I thank you very much for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me, Alan, and good luck to you too, sir. And be safe.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website.
Indie Beacon Radio with the host, B Alan Bourgeois.
Indie Beacon Radio is produced by B Alan Bourgeois for Authors Marketing Guild LLC, copyright 2020. Voiceover by Randy James, Lydia Bello, and B Alan Bourgeois. To be a sponsor of the show or for more information, please email us at info@authorsmarketingguild.com. To be interviewed for the show, please complete the form at radio.authorsmarketingguild.com. Music Always Rejoice by Ramcore.